Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to part 2 of Pamela Hupp and Betsy Faria. I really should have learned in my slight break how to say that, but we don't really refer to her by her surname anyway, so it's okay. If you haven't watched part 1, this is going to make absolutely zero sense. So part 1 was uploaded on Tuesday. I'm back today for part 2, so if you wanted to watch it all in one go, you're welcome. I'm obviously filming this immediately after, hence I normally change my top so it looks like I've filmed it on separate days, and I haven't bothered. But we all know that I've not filmed it in separate days. I hope everyone's had a lovely week and has got lovely plans for the weekend. What am I doing this weekend? I'm working. Do I have plans? I don't think I have plans. I'm doing nothing. So I hope you've got more plans than me. So I'll just get straight back into it for you. Trigger warning, again, this does mention suicide, so if that's something you don't want to listen to at the moment, that's totally fine. I'll see you for another video. Content warning, as always, strong language. So I had just finished saying about Pam being at the police station and being questioned and them going, yeah, that makes sense. Cool, see you later. So we're going to kind of go through Pam's day a little bit. So the investigators asked her about her day. She said she dropped Betsy home about 7 p.m. She'd gone home. Her husband was there. She'd had a shower and gone to bed. Pam was telling investigators that she was a little bit wary and a little bit concerned about Betsy going into the house on her own because Russ had obviously left the property unlocked. So she's planting little seeds and dropping little things about hinting that there's an intruder in the house and that this was a random crime, which we've already established it absolutely was not. She also mentioned that she'd seen 2 random cars parked around the house, which again, if it's your friend and you're that concerned, surely you'd wait to see that they're okay before driving off. But, you know, that's just me. I can't leave any of my friends. If they drive off and drop me home or something, they have to text me when they get home. I have ended up texting my friend's brother before, like, are you alive? Like, are they alive? Because I'm so concerned. I have visions. My mind goes to the worst place possible. So if I say text me when you get home and you don't text me when you get home, I think you're in a ditch. Pam also mentioned that Betsy had said to her that she wanted to move into her mum's house with Russ and that she was planning on telling Russ that evening, and she knew that Russ wasn't going to be very happy about it. She painted Russ in the worst way you could possibly paint someone. She made him out to be controlling, angry, abusive, everything in between. She made him out to be a complete piece of shit. Pam said she felt so guilty about leaving Betsy alone with Russ because she was so terrified of his violent temper and outbursts. But she wasn't concerned enough to stick around. But she then eventually changed her story quite quickly. Said that she went into the house with Betsy to turn the hallway lights on, make sure it was okay, and then she left. Then she changed it again and said that she went in the house, went upstairs because Betsy wanted to show her something in the jewellery cabinet. And then she said that she tucked her in on the sofa and then left. Then she said that Betsy actually walked her to the front door, so she didn't leave Betsy on the sofa. She said that she called her when she got home to make sure that she was okay and to let her know that she'd got home safe. Then she said she called her when she was almost home to make sure she was okay. Then she said she called Betsy because she got lost and she needed help finding her way home, despite having been to Betsy's house numerous times. She'd got lost, so she called Betsy for directions. Her cell phone records, however, state that she was literally like round the corner from Betsy's house when she'd called her. Then she said that she'd pulled over to call Betsy and Betsy didn't pick up. So when she got home, she called her again and she didn't pick up, so she texted her. Like, how many times? Like, what's that? Like 6 times? She just changed her story in like 5 minutes. But no one, this isn't ringing any alarm bells. I mean, we need the little guy from TikTok with the red flag, because like, where's he? Because no one's picking up on it. No one's noticing she's changing her story. Or if they are, they just don't care. So on December 29th, Pam's husband was actually interviewed because Pam's husband is a big part of her alibi. But again, Pam was allowed in the interview room whilst they were interviewing her husband. Why was that allowed? So very quickly, Pam took over the interview and just started answering all of the questions for him, which no one interjected. Everyone just thought, it's fine, it's Pam. And how was that allowed? I've never seen an instance in any kind of like murder case or anything where someone's being interviewed and they're allowed someone else in the room, or even if they are allowed someone else in the room, the other person's not fucking talking. And if they do say anything, they're certainly not answering the questions for them. Again, this rang no alarm bells whatsoever. And I'm also concerned that it didn't raise any alarm bells with her husband, because he must have known she's lying. What do I know? What do I know? Pam, again, was just throwing Russ so far under the bus and just painting him out to be this complete monster. She said that he had a drinking problem, that when he'd drink, he'd get violent. He'd call Betsy all the names under the sun. She said that Betsy was scared of him, that one time he'd held a pillow over her face, and that Russ had bragged to her about how much money he was going to get when Betsy had died. She's doing a good job at painting him to be this complete prick. So Pam was called in to interview, I think the same day that they found Betsy. But Pam's clothes were never tested, her car was never tested, her house was never tested. They didn't even go to the bother of checking that she was wearing the same clothes throughout the day and she hadn't got changed to go to this interview. They didn't check anything. I think I've seen a few clips from these interrogations and it's just the most lenient, laid back thing ever. Like, everyone's just chilling, everyone's totally calm, like they're not investigating a fucking murder. Like, this poor woman has been brutally murdered and they're all just so blasé about it. It's really bizarre and they just seem really nice to Pam for some reason. January 4th, 2012, Russ was arrested for the murder of Betsy and everyone in their life was totally shocked. Friends and family couldn't believe it. During the preparation for Russ's trial, his attorney was just really confused about the information as well, because it seemed that he obviously believed that Russ was innocent, and it seemed bizarre to him that no one had looked into Pam, seeing that she was the last person to see Betsy alive. Like, Pam was never even considered to be a suspect. Like, there were so many red flags. She was the last person to see her alive. The life insurance policy had been changed into her name, which they knew about. It's not even like they didn't know. A few days before she was killed, her story is changing so quickly. And she's got no real alibi. Like, how was she not even considered a suspect? It's just mind-bending. I mean, it really doesn't take a genius to kind of figure it out, does it? Like, it really doesn't take much brain power to think a little bit harder about maybe considering her a suspect. Whereas Russ had the most airtight alibi you could possibly have. He was at his friend's house at the time that Betsy was murdered. He has all of his friends who were there to, to corroborate his story. He had receipts with timestamps on them to show that he was at that Arby's before he went home. But no, it was still being pushed onto Russ. This is what really pisses me off, right? So one of the officers does like a test run from Russ's friend's house home to see how long it would take him, to see if it was possible to get home, kill Betsy and call 911 within that time. But the way they did it is wrong, like completely wrong. They didn't do it true to what actually happened. So the officer drove on the hard shoulder the entire time, so that's immediately unfair because there's no fucking traffic. So he drove on the hard shoulder the entire time, so it's immediately just, no, you're wrong. And he didn't stop at Arby's, which is the one thing Russ did. So it's physically, he did it in 23 minutes, but that you can easily shave off at least 10, because that's not what happened. Russ wasn't driving on the hard shoulder and he stopped to get burgers, which he has a receipt for. It's so irritating. Even if this did take him 23 minutes, this would have left him 9 minutes. 9 minutes, okay? To stab Betsy 55 times, clean everything up, clean himself up, possibly have a shower, and sort himself out, make himself look sad, and call 911. I don't think that's possible, do you? I'll tell you for free, it's not fucking possible. It's not possible. Like, I think I spoke about it in what video was it? It was one where they got stabbed. It was the sleepwalking killer, when I was talking about the force, time and effort it takes to stab someone. Not that I know personally, I haven't stabbed anyone, but I watch a lot of true crime, obviously. It's just not possible. He had no injuries to his hands, no injuries to himself. I don't think he had a speck of blood on him anywhere. So it's not possible. It's ridiculous. As I was saying, forensics obviously scanned Russ when he got to the police station. There wasn't a speck of blood on him anywhere. And because he'd been in so many stores that day, he had lots of CCTV to back up that he was wearing exactly the same outfit. How did they think it was Russ? Honestly, you think you can stab someone 55 times and not get a speck of blood on you anywhere, or cut yourself or anything like that? Just like, be so fucking for real. Police also checked the drains to see if he had showered this blood off himself, which, big shocking reveal, there was no blood in the drains. So I just don't know how they thought Russ did it. It's funny because it's so ridiculous. It's so frustrating that they can't see what's like punch you in the face obvious. It's just ridiculous. The only thing that police were really clinging on to as evidence were those slippers. They were clinging on to these slippers for dear life because it was the only thing that they could see could really pin Russ to the murder. But once again, there's no footprints through the house in blood, so it doesn't actually make sense, but you know. So Pam was asked to do a polygraph test while she was at the police station, and sorry, I need to stop laughing, it's just so ridiculous. Pam didn't really ask, she told her doctor to write her a note so she could get out of it like it's fucking PE. So they said she couldn't take it because she recently had a head injury, so no. She went to her doctor, Dr. Fisher, and said that she had a head injury, so she couldn't do it. So can you write this note, please? And he just did it. No questions asked, didn't look into her medical history, didn't check if you actually ever had a head injury. So really great work from you, sir. I don't know if I mentioned this in the last one. I really hope I did. But Russ was told to do a polygraph test whilst he was being interviewed for like 10 hours. And he did it, and they said that he had failed. But obviously he's being prepped for trial at the moment. So his lawyer's trying to find this polygraph test, and he cannot find it anywhere. And that's because no one tested him. Russ's polygraph test was fake. They faked giving him a polygraph test, and they faked telling him that he'd failed. Because at the time, Russ had been awake for 32 hours. He'd not slept, not ate, and the night before he'd smoked weed. So no reputable person would test him in this state. He did offer himself to do a new polygraph test, and also his friends that he was with that night also offered to do a polygraph test, but the prosecutor was like, nah, don't worry about it. And some of the shit Pam came out with while she was being interviewed, like she'd already said previously that if she wanted loads of money, she has plenty of other family members that she could kill and get a lot more money. And she was speaking to, obviously she thinks investigators are just like her mates, so she's just having a girly chinwag, and says that she doesn't personally have a life insurance policy on her because she doesn't want anyone to kill her for the money. And then she also says that it's amazing that her husband's still alive. What? But again, they just think she's just bubbly little Pam. So Russ's trial started in November in 2013. The prosecution went with the story that Russ had killed Betsy for her life insurance policy, which doesn't make any sense because it wasn't in his name. But they ran with the fact that he didn't know that she'd changed it and he'd killed her for the life insurance policy. Because he had lots of student loan debt, they painted him as a very bossy, controlling man with a violent temper and a drug problem. Now, this is another bit that just doesn't make any sense. So the judge ruled that they could not mention things about Pam in the case, like in the trial. So they couldn't mention that Pam was the sole beneficiary of the life insurance policy. They couldn't mention that it had been changed a few days before her death, and they couldn't mention Pam's phone records, which is the smoking gun to like half of the investigation. So he just had no chance. Literally from the offset, as soon as they walked in and saw him, they just thought, yep, you're gonna go down for this. I don't care if it's you or not. And it's just the most ridiculous thing. The jury deliberated for 4.5 hours and they came back with a guilty verdict, and Russ was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And members of the jury who were actually interviewed outside of court said that half of them had found him guilty because his alibi was too good. What does that mean? What does that mean? Maybe if you think the friends are all lying under oath and they're all lying for him because they love him so much, but there's a fecking receipt. There's a receipt that's time-stamped. There's CCTV from the places he was at. It's just, I really don't get how they came to that conclusion, but I guess without the information that wasn't allowed to be in court about Pam, maybe I can kind of see how they got there. It was only about 5 days before the trial that Pam had actually put away $1,000 into a separate, no, $100,000 into a separate account for Betsy's daughters. And she did this 5 days before the trial. But we're also missing $50,000. So where's that? Pam was asked about this and said, like, why is it taken so long? Because I think it's been like two years at this point. So why is it taking so long? And Pam came back with the whole woe is me again and go, oh, I've just been so busy. I'm dealing with my mum that's got Alzheimer's. I've been so busy. I just haven't had the chance. But I think that I've named this guy called Joel. I think he's the defence lawyer for Russ. And Joel then starts getting emails a few days after the trial from various different people saying, no, Pam's mum's dead. She died recently, actually. Pam's mother's name was Shirley Newman, and she had recently died from falling from her third floor balcony in the supported community that she was living in, like the supported living community that she was living in. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm assuming this was a little frail old lady, and the damage to this balcony looks like it's been done with a lawnmower or a small car. My Fiat 500 could have made the same damage, but this is the force that this little old lady went into the balcony. Like, no, and no prizes for guessing who was the last person to see Shirley alive. If you said Pam, well done. And unfortunately for Shirley, it was around lunchtime the next day when she was finally found by a worker, and they had come to the conclusion that she had fallen from her third floor balcony. During Shirley's autopsy, it was found that she had 8 times the normal or prescribed amount of Ambien that you should have. So again, why is this not red flagging? Like, why is no one thinking? Police then remembered that Pam had said that if she wanted money, she'd kill her mum because she got a big life insurance policy on her. But amazingly, her mum's death was not treated as suspicious. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like I'm losing brain cells reading this. So after her mum died, Pam inherited around $100,000, and she's never been charged for her mum's death. So technically, I'm just speculating, but I'm sorry. Look at that balcony and tell me a little old lady's done that, because she hasn't. Pam 1,000,000% killed her mum. In 2014, Betsy's daughters eventually changed their mind about Russ, and they start to turn on Pam. Good. And they do actually file a wrongful death lawsuit against Pam. So the initial detective told Pam to open the account to put the money in for Betsy's daughter to keep up appearances. And I think it was about 2 weeks after the trial had ended, she emptied that account, and Betsy's daughter never saw any of the money. Which is just horrible, because she obviously genuinely really trusted this woman, and she really trusted her to give that money to her daughters. That's what she wanted that money to go to. So because investigators and police are looking into Pam, finally, a new trial was set for Russ in June of 2015. And miraculously, like some form of June miracle, the police found 132 photos that they had lost for the first trial, which contradicted pretty much everything that was said at the first trial. Convenient, I know, but good, they've come up eventually, but Jesus Christ. They also found a copy of one of Pam's interviews as well, and in this interview came out something that they'd never mentioned before, where Pam was claiming that her and Betsy were actually lovers. She said that in her final days she was acting as a husband towards Betsy, and she said that a month before Betsy was killed, Russ had walked in on the pair of them having sex. However, close friends of Pam said that she was the biggest homophobe they'd ever met, so it seems very unlikely that she was in a lesbian relationship. Just when you thought she couldn't get worse, she's a fucking homophobe. Thankfully, this new trial could mention all of this shit about Pam, which should have been there in the first place. But this new trial, they could mention everything about Pam, so everyone's blinkers were finally fucking off, and Russ was acquitted of all charges. Russ did sue the police for the way that they handled the situation, and he was eventually awarded $2 million, which is good, but it's not pay back for those years he spent wrongfully in prison and how traumatic it must have been. He'd already lost his wife, the love of his life, and then had to go to prison for something he absolutely didn't do. Like, you can't even imagine how horrible and hard that must have been for him. So we're shooting ahead to August 2016, and I've got another 911 call for you.
911, where's your emergency?
Hey, hello, there's someone breaking in my house. Help!
What's
Help!
the address you're at?
Help!
Want me to give you, want me to give your wife?
No, I'm not getting in the car with you. No,
What's
get
your
away.
address?
Get out, get out, get out. Help!
Ma'am, what's the address you're at?
Help! Help!
I had somebody breaking into.
No, no, no.
Hello?
Help! Help!
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Help!
What's the address you're at? Hello?
Hello! Hello! Who is
Are
it?
you there?
Yes, I am.
Where are you
I
at?
have an intruder in my house.
Where are you at? Who broke into your home?
I don't know. I'm here. Help!
Where is he at right
I'm
now?
outside. I'm going outside. Come on, who's this?
The fire alarms are going off too.
I know.
Is he inside?
Yes.
Is he a white male, a black male?
He's white. He's white. Hurry, 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 hurry. He tried to get me in my car and I ran into the
He
house.
tried to take you into his car?
He tried to take me in my car. Help! Hurry, hurry, please somebody.
Have officers on the way, ma'am. Where are you at right now in the home?
I'm in the garage.
You're in the garage?
My car. He's still in the house.
Okay, can you run to a neighbor's house?
I don't think there's anybody home now. I'm gonna stay here. I have my dog. I have my puppy. He's only
You have
2
your
months.
puppy with you?
Yes.
You have no idea who the subject is?
No.
Are there any weapons in the home?
Yes, there's a gun on my bed. I shot him.
There's a gun on your bed. You shot him?
Yes, I shot him. He tried to get in my bedroom after me, and I shot him.
There's a gun in the home. She said she shot him. Is he still, as far as you know, is he still in your room?
No, he's in the hallway.
He's in the hallway. Is he moving?
Is he hallway? No, he's not moving.
Not moving?
Oh, hurry!
Ma'am, we already have help on the way. Just stay on the line with me. Is the garage door open?
Yes, everything's open. I was leaving out of my car. Where are they? Where are
They're
they?
on the way, ma'am. Are you injured?
No, he didn't get me. He didn't get to me.
He didn't get you?
No, he did not get me.
So officers arrived at the scene and 33-year-old Lewis had been shot dead by Pam. According to Pam, Lewis had met her on her driveway and he was asking for Russ's money. And as he was asking for this, he'd held a knife up to her throat. She said she managed to knock the knife out of his hand, run into the house, grab her gun, and when Lewis followed her in, she shot him dead. Now, poor Lewis in 2005 was involved in a very serious car crash, and because of this car crash, he'd suffered severe brain damage, and this left him unable to process complex things. He lived at home with his mother and barely left the house apart from going out on walks. So Pam was taken into custody and Pam was interviewed, and they brought up Russ, and she said, I don't think I know anyone called Russ. What? So Pam was being interviewed for the murder of Betsy as well at the same time. And in her second interview, which was a week before Lewis died, Pam was out and about pretending to be a Dateline producer. She offered a woman $1,000 to reenact or make a fake 911 call with her. And the woman originally, I think she initially said, yeah, amazing, okay. And then she kind of thought about it and then realised that something was very wrong. So she called police to report what happened because she just thought it was so odd. And thankfully this woman had home security footage, so it caught Pam in her car, it caught Pam's car, registration plate, it was Pam. So Pam then found Lewis because this woman was unwilling, and thankfully this woman didn't do it, but poor Lewis did agree to do it. And when Lewis was found dead, he had 9 $100 bills in his pocket. So it's clear that Pam had paid him to do the same thing. He'd also been found with a note on him talking about Russ's money and said that threatening to kill Pam. She'd wrote this whole fake note trying to pin it again on Russ. And Pam was clearly extremely desperate at this point to get out of what she'd done. And she was desperate to frame Russ again. 7 days after Pam had killed Lewis, she was arrested on first-degree murder. Whilst Pam was in the interrogation room, you can see her kind of try and sneakily take a pen, and then she's touching her neck because she's trying to find the main vein in your neck. She asks to go to the bathroom, and when she's in there, she tries to take her own life with this pen. So she stabs herself several times in the neck and also tries to slash her wrists as well. But thankfully, she was found by police staff in time and taken to hospital. So that is why her mugshot looks like this. In 2019, Pam enters a plea. I can't for the life of me remember what the plea's called, but it's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard of. So it's where she is acknowledging that the police have enough evidence on her in order to convict her, but she's still maintaining that she's innocent. How does that work? Because of this, her making this plea, she was able to avoid the death penalty. However, she did get life in prison for the murder of Lewis, thank God. And Pam was eventually charged with the first-degree murder of Betsy Faria, and Pam still denies that she had absolutely anything to do with this. She still very much blames Russ, who she has remembered again. And that is the story. That is the end of part 2. Thank you so much for joining me for my first 2-part video. But yeah, that's put a downer on my evening because it's so frustrating. I don't know if you found it as frustrating as I did, but it is so frustrating because I just don't feel like it could be more obvious that you need to look at Pam, but obviously it wasn't that obvious to the people that were investigating at the time. I believe there are various different things going on. There's various different investigations going on into the conduct of the people that were handling this case at the time. I don't know the outcome of that. If I do, I'll put it in the bio below so you can click on all the links. Right, I need a positive thought. Positive thought, positive thought, positive thought, positive thought. God, I'm so shit. I have a negative thought at the moment, is that I don't think I've stuttered that much, so I'm not really going to have very good outtakes. My positive thought at the minute is that I managed to do a clean yesterday whilst I was a little bit hungover, and when I get into bed now, my dog's already in my bed, he's waiting for me, that it will just be nice and clean and tidy, and it just makes me so happy. I feel like I can't relax when there's shit everywhere. It really stresses me out, so that's my positive thought at the minute. It's just a very basic one. Yeah, that's it from me this week. I'll be back again on Tuesday with, I'm not sure what, something that I've got in the archives. And then I will either be back for a few on Valentine's Day or just one. I haven't made my mind up about that yet. And I also need to check the scripts are up to par. But you will see me again, of course. If you could like and subscribe, it would really make me happy. I'd appreciate it very much. But until then, make good choices. Be careful who you make friends with. Don't bodge things just because you can't be asked. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing correctly. Don't get murdered. I'll see you next week. Love you, bye. Bloody I swear to God, no one in my house has an indoor voice. Still has the temp. What do you mean? No, she didn't. It's fucking PE. Student don't. Jury deliberate. So Pam's mum's. Oh, here's my dog. Hello, baby. She was